Well, after the solitude of the summer break, we now rev the engines once again in the International GTOpen Championship. Round 5 takes us to the Red Bull Ring. We are here, formerly known as the AUSTRIA Ring, formerly known as the A1 Ring. It's now the Red Bull Ring, folks. And I tell you this, it's going to be a special race. With the championship fight so fraught, we're going to race around a track that was opened back in July of 1969. Closed in 2004, but soon reopened on the 15th of May, 2011. We are here at a capacity of 105,000 seater that has the ability of holding that number of people with a length of 2.683 miles. That's 4.318 kilometers. And I tell you what, after heroics of last season, Oregon seemingly back to the front. This time, Maximilian Paul, following on from fabled heroics, and he managed to perform back at Hungaroring in that absolutely astounding move around the outside through the final corner. He's now back at the front end again, and this time on pole position for the second time that car has made it there this season. And now they can join the likes of Christopher Haase and that of Simon Riker as to be the only two teams of drivers to have netted more than one pole position this season. They have got, though, stiff competition, plenty of cars in the mix. A single point in terms of the championship fight is all that separates the likes of Sam DeHaan, Charlie Fagg, and the Motorpark team of Marcos Seber and Diego Menchaca. And again, we're going to open up a new chapter, of course. The second half of the season now in full swing. We're reaching the closing stages. A small matter of 3 rounds to go, 6 races to go before we crown a champion, and I'm looking forward to it. My name is, of course, George Morgan, your commentator. Alongside me, as always, the one, the only, it's Chris Stevens. Chris, how are you, sir? Did you enjoy your break?
I absolutely did. I've been waiting to come back to the GT Sport paddock for so long, since we left Le Castellet, which feels like way too long ago. And yeah, excited to be back. And wow, what a qualifying we had this morning. An unbelievable performance from Team Oregon. That's Maximilian Paul having a bit of a radio check there by the sounds of it. Yeah, when was the last time we saw the likes of these two very flamboyantly liveried Lamborghinis from the Pirate Team Oregon on the front row of the grid together? Maximilian Paul in the absolute form of his life right now, having won 2 of the last 3 races alongside Pierre-Louis Chauvet, but in the summer break also going on to become a DTM race winner as well, and making more appearances in GT World Challenge Europe as well. And for Dan Arrow, a big improvement in performance as well, easily the closest he's been to the sister car all season. And I was talking to Dan earlier, and I said, so what's changed on the car then that's made it better? And he said, well, actually, we're 15 kilos heavier than we were earlier in the season. So despite that, the pace in the Lamborghini still very much there, but we'll see how that holds up in the race.
Yeah, we certainly will. Obviously, folks, as we have said time and time again, GTOpen delivers fantastic championship fights, and again, we're on the cusp of another great here this time. As I said, a solitary point between those at the top end as well, but you don't have to look too far down to find other contenders. Of course, the likes of Christopher Haase and Simon Riker have had some really unfortunate luck through the season with one issue or another. Of course, the gearbox failure was one that was paramount heading through Hungaroring, but they have still been consistent, and I have to tell you, qualifying has not been a problem for them. Of course, stepping up this time, they've got a little trickier task that lies in front of them, and they've got 5 seconds to serve as a handicap when, of course, the pit stops and the driver change window opens, but nonetheless, expect them to be back very soon. They did have an issue, though, after going fastest in FP2. There was an issue with the engine. They had to replace the engine late last night. They were working through the night to get that car fit and ready to go racing again, but they are here at the very least and still have as much chance as anybody of scoring big points today.
Absolutely, and here we have a look at the championship leader, Sam DeHaan, qualified on the 3rd row of the grid. He'll be handing that car over to Charlie Fagg, and he starts alongside his nearest title rival, Marcos Seber, sharing that car with Diego Menchaca in the Motorpark Mercedes. They'll be alongside each other on the 3rd row of the grid. This is one of the new Ferrari 296s that have joined the grid for this weekend. Christian Korzanowski and Stanislav Jedlinski in the Olymp cars. That's a brand spanking new Ferrari 296 for them. But yeah, talking of the handicaps, George, the pole-sitting car and indeed the car in 5th place that's second in the championship both have 10-second handicaps to take during their pit stops, so that could well shake things up.
It could well do, and we've also got to give a special shout out to our AM contenders as well. Christian Korzanowski, who we just saw driving the new Ferrari 296 here this weekend. Stellar showing from him to park it where he did up in the top 10, and he wasn't alone. The legend of this championship, Andrea Montemini, scoring also a top 10 in qualifying. Remember, he of course was also a test driver for the Benetton team back in '94, the year that Michael Schumacher would go on to take the championship in Formula One all the way back in that era of racing. And what a stellar performance it was. And certainly for Montemini, his performances in the International GT Open have been stellar. Of course, he's a multiple-time champion for a reason, as we now await the cars to get ready to head out on formation. Of course, plenty of them will be getting themselves settled in. Mikael Pitamba donning a brand new hairstyle this weekend. He's got the purple to match the helmet. The curtains match the drapes, as they say.
Absolutely, and he was very happy with his performance in qualifying. He's 13th overall on the grid as the grid starts to get cleared now. Mechanics are making their way back to the garages. And we get some fantastic drone shots of the grid. It's a great-looking grid on the smaller end of the scale compared to what we've had this season, but still a very healthy 25 cars making up this grid for round 5 of the International GT Open.
Yeah, always lovely to see the drone shots. Of course, all the cars featuring, as we like to see. And again, just goes to show the length and breadth of the entire grid in itself. And the spectators alike, they always love coming to the GT Open events. And as time has gone by, we have seen a growth. But we're going to take a look as well at the highlights. And we'll take you through, obviously, what happened last time out. Highlights from Paul Ricard, and of course the chrome red Zebra as it was back then, no longer that livery, made their way through turn 1 and trying to don that with that car belonging to that of Maximilian Paul. But it was a huge shunt for Kiki Saknana, who unfortunately found the tyre barrier in the initial. Coming together though, Pierre-Louis Chauvet unfortunately making contact with the likes of Sam Dahan as they made their way up towards the line. It would be Optimum Motorsport who would take victory in race 1 at Paul Ricard. And then race 2 got underway, and it would be, of course, the sister McLaren out in front as well, marshalled on by that of the Oregon team, dressed up with the likes of Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet. They wouldn't make any mistake, though, heading through Scene Curve here. East Talent Audi with a Prosaic Rise making their way through the field, but then an oncoming storm would make its way down the inside as well. The Oregon team dedicated themselves to every apex they looked to challenge for the big points. Making their way, though, through the latter stages of the race, they would go on to take the checkered flag. A very fond victory for that of the Pirate team, and they'll look to chase exactly the same thing again, this time at Spielberg. And that's what it's done to the championship, folks. Let's take a look. Charlie Fagg, as I said, 1 solitary point. Sam Dahan alongside him. 1 point separates them and Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seeber. Christopher Haasler and Simon Riker down in third. 20 points the gap from the sharp end. Al-Faisal Al-Zubair and Fabian Schiller, 34 points back in 4th place. And they'll be looking to chase, I'm sure, when we see them back later on in the campaign.
And, of course, 5th in the standings there. We saw Yes, 5th in the standings, Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet could really well be a championship contender had things gone a little bit more their way at the start of the season. But here's how they line up, George.
Yeah, here's the grid, folks, and on the front row, make no mistake, it's Oregon Team Lamborghini, Maximilian Paul on pole, Dan Arrow in 2nd place. 3rd place, 2nd row of the grid, Fran Rueda, who was a little disappointed with the performance. Ricardo Agostini joins him on the same row. In 5th place, we've got Marcos Seeber in the championship fight, 1 point back. Their championship rivals, the leaders, in 6th place, Sam Dahan at the wheel. In 7th place, Philip Barron returning after debuting here last year. And of course, Christian Korzanowski lines up alongside, representing the AM contingent that are doing so well. Andrea Montemini, we alluded to him, a great of this championship, a multiple-time champion. Steve Jans alongside him in 10th place. 11th place, Simon Riker with the engine change going to that of East Talent Audi. They'll face Nicolo Rossi in 12th place as well. In 13th, Mikael Pitamba, all dressed in purple. Alongside him, Marco Polcini in 14th place with Eddie Cheever with him. They're chasing the Pro-Am title. Heiko Neumann lines up in 15th. They're leading the AM contingent class right now. Giuseppe Cipriani in 16th. 17th going to newcomer Anthony Bartone this season. 18th place to Alessandro Cosi. 19th spot for Marcin Jedlinski, who lines up alongside Stuart Proctor in 20th place. 21st going to Sampo and Zhao Zhao for Benoldi team, with Pascal Bachmann in the street art Aston Martin. 23rd place for the returning Kiki Saknana after that crash at Paul Ricard. Great to see him back. Alongside him, Dexter Muller lines up for the Mercedes SPS team. And at the tail end of the field, 25th place, Jean-Claude Sada lines up. Ray, of course, of Ferrari. And Chris, a fantastic, compelling lineup. I tell you what is fascinating, well, we have got Oregon on the front row. How about on the same row of the grid, the championship contenders, Optimum Motorsport and that of Motor Park?
Yeah, it could get very dicey into turn one. It's a real pinch point at the apex, so it's hard enough to get a few cars side by side through there at the best of times. And we're going to try and fit 25 through there all together at the moment. Worth pointing out, compared to qualifying this morning, the track is 15 degrees warmer. Track temperature is now 36 degrees, and it was very chilly and still a bit misty when we got here this morning for qualifying. That's going to have a massive impact on certainly how the tyres behave, but how the car handles in general.
Yeah, it's going to be a very warm one, folks. We were out there this morning. It was a very, very cold start with the mist still on the circuit. It didn't take long to disappear, though. The temperature of the actual, well, the air temp itself was actually steadily advancing as time went on. Naturally, I think that played a hand of sorts in qualifying too, but we're seeing it at its heights here at this race. Of course, we're getting underway at 12:30 local time here in Austria, and I hope you're all going to tune in and get set for yet another grand chapter here at Red Bull Ring. And we come back here once again after some stellar runs in the past. Of course, this round in itself has become very much certainly a crux in any championship fight, and I think we're going to see another one. We have gone racing 7 times prior to this one. This will be our 8th running of the Austrian race. There's Rob McCornage watching on. He's very optimistic, and very clever choice of words there, seeing as they're called Optimum Motorsport. As now seeing them make their way down through towards the final corner now. Red Bull Mobile Curve lines up first, and it's the 2 cars sharing a garage at that of Oregon team. In behind a McLaren. It's not an Optimum McLaren, but it certainly will be a punchy one. But it is an Optimum McLaren as they come up now towards the line, and very slowly, stellarly, surely, and sensibly as well, as we make our way down towards turn 1, we'll await them as the lights go green to put pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 and immediately straight from the get-go, Maximilian Paul trying to defend the outside attack, which will become the inside from Fran Rueda, who now makes his way through turn 1, and look at this, immediately cutting away Dan Arrow, who looks to try and prevent any onslaught here. You can just see a dynamic Sam Dahan rising up through the field there in the McLaren 720S GT3, and I think he's overtaken the sister car as well. Philip Barron currently sat and waiting in the wings for a potential overtake. Through turn 3 they go. Look at the rise from Marcos Seeber. He has now made it into 2nd place. Cars strewing off on the outside. What a start for Sam Dahan though, Chris.
Yeah, but an even better one for his nearest championship rival, Marcos Seeber, up into 2nd place. The 2 Lamborghinis were too busy watching each other as Dan Arrow was trying to get up on the outside, and Marcos Seeber said, thank you very much, I will have 2nd place, and surely he's put himself in a prime position now to challenge. Has got one of the cars running off at turn 4 there on board with Philip Barron. And look at that, the East Talent Audi already in strife and being squeezed onto the grass there by the Kessel Ferrari.
Is there damage?
There is damage to the front of that Audi.
Yeah, it definitely looks like damage coming out of Slosh Gold. Maybe a little coming together of sorts, and a car rumbling off. I think that was the SBS Mercedes coming through there. There's Anthony Bardone, who's going to take a favourable line on the outside as well, and manage to jettison his way further and further away. Through they go, the Jochen curve, side by side between 2 Mercedes as well. That's the SBS of, I believe, Mikael Pitamba favouring an outside line, tries to squeeze through against that of the other Get Speed Performance Mercedes. Of course, this one being the SBS that Mikael is driving for as they make their way down towards turn 1. And look who's waiting in the wings. You've got Korsanovski in the brand new 296.
So Fran Rueda has had a really difficult start, down to 5th place, lost out to Seeber and Sam Dahan, but important for Optimum, both those cars being run by the Optimum squad. The Rueda car being run under the name of Altitude Racing, but run by Optimum, and that's important for Dahan to get that move done early on, and he's got to keep his championship rival in sight, because as it stands, Motorpark will take the lead in the championship as Korsanovski gets a push out wide on the exit of turn 3. Simon Riker's got a great view of that, so it was we saw the damage on the front and getting squeezed onto the grass, but it hasn't slowed him up too much. He's still looking to make forward progress, but he's down a couple of positions from where he qualified.
Yeah, Phil Barron actually making a move on Korsanovski into turn 3 and managed to cultivate it as well, so I think that does place him 2nd in the AM contingent. Currently sat in 7th as well, Andrea Montemini, of course, leading that AM fray. Fran Rueda still holding on to 5th place and the lead. And just look at that, East Talent Audi, clear damage shown on the wheel arch on the front left-hand side. Now, whether that's going to cause an issue, certainly in terms of the tyre itself, they haven't come in and boxed yet, but nevertheless, I think that might cause a problem.
Could well do, certainly not aerodynamically efficient. If you're new to GTOpen, we have 3 driver classes, Pro, Pro-Am and Am. You can differentiate them, but they're red for Pro, blue for Pro-Am, and green for Am. And now the Pro-Am cars can certainly mix it up with the Pro cars when they have their Pro driver in the car. So what we're seeing here, as Podium gets well out wide on the exit of the first corner, is the Pro-Am altitude racing McLaren with Fran Rader at the wheel, pressuring the fully Pro Optimum Motorsport McLaren of Sam Dehaan and Charlie Fagg. And Rader struggles on the opening lap. He seems like he wants to get past Dehaan in a hurry.
Yeah, it might just be a little cosmetic damage there, I think.
It's one of the little winglets on the front, I think, there is. Oh, that looked like Rader going for a move into turn 4 on Dehaan there. And couldn't quite see if he made the move stick.
2 Optimum cars together as well as they head down now into Slosh Gold. There we see, of course, Marcin Jedlinski just holding on to an advantage there as well. Sam Dehaan currently being pressurized by the sister car in the same garage. Yes. And with the likes of Fran Rueda, he's certainly not someone to be trifled with, a very, very good quality driver. And we saw someone just kick up the gravel there. Might have actually been Dan Arrow, and I think that might have cost him a little bit of time. You can just see the deficit there, 1 second now away from Marco Seibert. Yeah,
and look who's joining the back of this battle for 4th place as well. It's Riccardo Agostini in the AF Corsa Ferrari 296. They started out the year with a 488, and slowly but surely the 296 has started dominating the Ferrari entrance that we've had so far. We've got 5 of them on the grid now, and still 3 488s, but great to see the number of 296s growing there. And actually, yeah, speaking of the 488, there is the Montemini car leading the AM contingent in 7th place there.
He's having a fantastic race so far, 7th place and leading the AM contingent. And as I said, a former multiple-time World City GTOpen champion, and coming back again and fighting against the pro contenders. He's been in the world of racing now, motorsport, for a long, long time, and has delved his skills, as I said earlier on, in the world of Formula 1, and has since impressed in other championships and categories too, as we're now seeing Sam Dehaan still under convincing pressure from Fran Rueda, who's hugging that tighter line heading through Slosh Gold, which might deliver him something a little special heading through Rochenberth Curve. You can just see the gaps though growing. Maximilian Paul seems to be consolidating this advantage. 1.5 seconds, it's not shifting.
Yeah, he pulled about 3.5 tenths over Marco Seibert on the previous lap.
2 seconds
lap of the race, set by 1:29.867 by Maximilian Paul. And yes, that gap very much growing. As now that was Montemini kicking up some gravel there, I believe. Looked like he just dipped 2 wheels into the gravel at turn 8. But yeah, Maximilian Paul stretching his legs out to the front of the field. And the Lamborghini seems to be doing very well in a straight line. Conversely, the Mercedes may be struggling a little bit more in that aspect. The turbo cars are doing quite well in a straight line.
I think we lost Montemini, I think. He's dropping down the order, yeah. 13th place now, and certainly I did see, where, as you pointed out, that obviously the gravel was kicked up. I think he might have pivoted the car at that point, essentially, which has led to him now dropping down through the field, and now he's down to 13th place. I believe he has recovered, no concerns in terms of flags. So I think we're all right for now. Sam Dehaan being forced to go defensive again as Rueda starts to put the pressure on.
Yes, that moment for Montemini, that's put Philip Barron in the eponymous Barron Motorsport Ferrari into the lead in the AM class, in 10th overall, very closely followed by Korzanowski in the Olin Ferrari.
Heading down now into Slosh Gold, you can see them all in tandem. The groups are starting to spread out in places, but we've got bunches almost where battles are now under fray. Steve Jans is under a little bit of pressure from Marco Polcini. He's currently sat in 9th place. Now remember, Polcini and Eddie Cheever leading the Pro-Am Championship, and by some margin as well. In terms of second in that championship, that's currently sat with Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler. And of course, Muller is doing the initial stint here in race 1 at the very start. And he was just hoping to keep his nose clean. When I spoke to him earlier on this afternoon, he said he was quite happy with what he did in qualifying. He couldn't really do much more than what he did. It's all about taking your chances and opportunities right at the start. And of course, when the pit stops come into play and we see those driver changes come in, that's when Yannick Mettler, I'm sure, will be unleashed on this track, as we now see the cars make their way down. I do wonder whether Fran Rueda is going to give up waiting in behind that of Sam Dehaan. It just seems that he gets closer and closer, lap after lap here, Chris. He might have his chance this time.
May well do. good exit out to the first corner. They both comfortably run over the sausage curb on the exit of the first corner. It's a big rise up the hill towards the braking zone of turn 3. But Fran Raider just can't get close enough to the back of that sister McLaren at the moment, and taking the wider line on the way in quite consistently. That was a good exit, but the straights seemingly not quite long enough for the cars to make use of the slipstream. Here's a replay of the start. Raider had a great launch, so certainly nothing wrong on the initial getaway, but I have a feeling he's about to get pinched up on the inside here while everybody else takes to the escape road at the first corner.
And we just saw the East Talent Audi as well. Keep your eyes peeled on that, folks. They cut away to the inside. I think this is where they might have sustained the damage, you know. You can just see it got squeezed off in towards turn 1, went over the, should we say, the sausage curb. We did lose. I think that's the Benaldi, is it not?
Yes, and that's the car that was in the gravel in qualifying and brought the red flag out as well. So it's not been a good day for Benaldi, having already lost one of their cars this weekend. And yeah, look on the left-hand side there, the East Talent Audi. Might have just missed it, but was it contact with the Baron, maybe?
It looks like it's flapping on the front left, so it does seem that I think it might have been initially caused when they made their way through turn 1. So, I mean, it looks pretty clean there, in fact.
Yeah, so certainly was clambering over the apex curb, for sure. So maybe it happened slightly later in the lap. We did see him get squeezed onto the grass at one point, so that was certainly a close moment on the opening lap, as we've got this trio of cars still squabbling over 4th place, separated by what, about 0.7 of a second at the moment. Absolutely love it. Dehan leading that train of cars at the moment, the championship leader. And again, Fran Raider consistently taking that wider line under braking for the hairpin at turn 3. Now this is Riker trying to get up past the Ferrari 296, and the Ferrari goes wide on the exit of turn 3 there. It's a brand spanking new car for this weekend, and it looks like, as we're on board with Riker, that he's going to have him here. If he hasn't out-dragged him already, he'll get him under braking here for turn 4, and that should well be 11th place now for Simon Riker, and splitting the 2 AM class leaders. Well, look at this, Kozlowski's coming back at him on the outside, but Riker now consolidating that place.
Certainly not fearing scratching that brand new car at all. Christian Korzanowski has certainly shown that he has the pace, despite now transferring away from the 488, moving into the 296. I know that his, should we say, stable companion in a way, Carol Bash, was very impressed with the new look on the Ferrari, and I have to say the livery looks absolutely fantastic. As we now see the cars make their way down through towards the final corner, Red Bull Mobile curve, and the East Talent Audi now regaining the places that they initially lost. It's now back up to 11th where they started. Now heading down towards turn 1, they've got a little bit more to climb. Barron Motorsport will be next on their list of Philip Barron, who's currently sat in 10th place with the AM lead. Marco Pulcini in 9th as well, only 5/10 away from that of Steve Jans, who's holding on to that placement too. Still, we see the Optimum Motorsport McLaren 720Ss coming together up through towards turn 1. Maximilian Paul, another fastest lap of the race too, so he is now consolidating that advantage, 3.1 in front of Marcos Seibert. Look at the exit again, this time from Fran Rueda, who is now getting closer and closer in behind. Now, is it a question that now the Optimum Motorsport team get onto their engineers, maybe make a decision here? Fran Rueda having a look down the inside into Slosh Gold, trying to threaten to make the move, asking the big questions of Sam Dehan.
But they can't afford to squabble now, because last time round they took a good 3/10 out of Pierre-Louis Chauvet in 3rd place. They are starting to close down the second Lamborghini. So if they start squabbling, they'll start losing time, and they want to put pressure on the Oregon team.
They certainly do. They, of course, won at Paul Ricard, and they took the fabled endurance win at Spa-Francorchamps twice. Race winners this season, but they've also scored podiums. They scored a P2 in the opening round at Portimao, as we now see them make their way down through towards the final quarter at Red Bull Ring. And naturally now Sam Dehan knows the job that he has to do. He had a fantastic start. Qualifying he was positive about as well. He's 1 place up on where he started and would like to hold on to it, but I have a feeling that Fran Rueda is going to try and maybe put a spoke in the wheel of that right now. But also they've got to be wary, because Agostini is haunting that rear wing too, so do not count out the Ferrari. The AF Corsa, of course, alongside him, Eddie Cheever, who'll be hopping into the car when the driver change window opens. And have a look at that. Maximilian Paul, another fastest lap.
Yeah, absolutely flying the lead gap now, 3.3 seconds. Took another 3/10 away from Marcos Seibert in 2nd place last time around. This is, of course, the slightly longer race that we have this weekend. Of the two races, a 70-minute and a 60-minute. It's the slightly longer one. And sometimes you need a splash of fuel in these races as well, normally, which you often don't need for the second. So that often mixes things up between the two races that we see. And also the different driver combinations as well. One driver has to do at least one qualifying session in the weekend, and therefore starts the race as well. So the drivers that you see now will do the second stint tomorrow, and their teammates will do qualifying and the first stint.
Marcin Jedlinski getting past Alessandro Cosi for that 18th place too, and has already consolidated a gap of 9/10 of a second, so he's certainly making some serious ground. Giuseppe Cipriani not having a bad run either, 15th place as things stand, of course representing the Il Baroni Rampante team. As we now see them make their way around down the home straight once again. There they are, still in tandem. Two McLaren 720Ss, two Optimum Motorsport McLarens as well, as they circulate through turn one, heading through Niki Lauda curve. Now, is it going to be the turn of Fran Rueda again to squeeze the issue? Of course, they're very wary of Agostini in behind as we now pan across to that of Marcos Seibert in second place. 3.8 now the gap. It becomes 4 seconds when they reach turn 3, but 3.9 and now 4 seconds behind Dan Arrow as well in third place. So naturally right now, it's just a case of managing this race now, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big lap for Maximilian Paul as well. Took half a second out of Seibert on that last lap. It was a slightly scruffy lap for Seibert, actually, into the 1 minute 30s. So the gap now 4 seconds, as you mentioned. He's in a bit of a race on his own. He's got 4 seconds behind him as well to Dan Arrow, the young Dutchman, who's another driver very early in his racing career. And now I think this is the move we saw a little bit earlier on with Simon Riker getting past Christian Korzeniowski for 11th place. You'll see Korzeniowski able to come back on the outside there. This is how he lined it up. Lovely little line into turn 3. Korzeniowski went wide, that ruined his run. And Riker just able to out-drag the V6 Ferrari with his naturally aspirated V10. Sam de Haan is soaking up the pressure here from Fran Rueda and Riccardo Agostini as well. And now there'll be a bit of bitterness maybe if the Ferrari ends up on the back of Sam de Haan, given that that is the car that drove into the side of him in Hungary and denied him victory on that day. It was Marin Angeli behind the wheel rather than Agostini, but no love lost between those two teams this year.
Wonders of motorsport, certainly, and we're going to be seeing yet another fight, I'm sure, as time continues to tick onwards. Very soon we will have the driver change window as well. It's going to open up in just over 12 minutes and 15 seconds. As we now see the cars make their way around, Maximilian Paul still leading the way and advancing his guard again by another 7/10 since we last checked. And remember, it was 4 seconds not too long ago. He's nearly advanced another second upon that of Marcos Seibert. But one thing you can say about Marcos Seibert, put him in clean air and there's lots he can do with it.
Absolutely. It's just been on an absolute fire, the whole team, these last few races. And, you know, they really could have been challenging for the championship were it not for a bit of a difficult start to the season. Was that some brake dust flying off the car of Maximilian Paul there going into the penultimate corner? I certainly hope not, because it might well spell trouble for the Lamborghini team. On his way now nearly 5 seconds clear of Marcos Seibert, doing a sterling job out there. But yeah, with Pierre-Louis Chauvet behind the wheel a little bit later on. Of course, had to make up for the incident with Sam de Haan in the Castellet in the first race by nailing it in the second race as well, taking victory last time out with Maximilian Paul.
Fran Rueda now trying to get closer and closer. Agostini started to drop off just slightly off Rueda, but nothing to concern him too much as Rueda looks for that deeper line again heading through turn 3, and that does favour him heading down towards Schloss Gold. So I do wonder whether that is what he's trying to do. He's trying to counteract, and this I think is Montemini. Montemini into the pits. Now, is there a problem? Because he did go off earlier.
Yeah, well, this is an unscheduled pit stop for sure. Driver change doesn't start for another 10 minutes, so this is most definitely a problem for Montemini's Ferrari.
Yeah, heartache, certainly. Yeah, very much so. It is a shame, and naturally a wonderful talent behind the wheel that we've seen year on year. As we now see the McLarens once again circling through this next lap. They've actually picked up pace, and I think, in fact, closing in on Dan Arrow at this point. So Sam Dahan having a stellar run so far, and I'm sure Charlie Fagg is watching on and no doubt impressed with what he's seen so far.
Absolutely. In this battle, I don't know how much of interest it is to Fran Reda, unless he thinks he's much quicker than Dahan, to really mix it up with him, because he's a Pro-Am runner, and currently he's about 6 seconds clear of the second Pro-Am car, which is Steve Jans in 8th place overall in the 911 Get Speed Mercedes. Of course, Reda will have to take the 10-second handicap at the pit stop, but could be the difference between winning and losing that class, but not too much impetus at the moment for him to mix it up too much with the pro runners while he's quite comfortably in the lead of his class.
Yeah, he probably won't want to unsettle the current scenario. Pascal Bachmann, we're currently seeing, I had a brief chat with him as well, and he says he's really enjoying his time in this championship right now, as we see Fran Rueda once again gaining and gaining. He certainly seems to find it heading out of Remus corner at turn 3, but I think just in that straight line, I think that Sam Dahan is certainly able to consolidate the advantage.
Oh,
very wide, and as I said that, goodness me, very nearly fell by the way of Fran Rueda at that point. Very nearly had his fellow stable companion as they head through the next left at Rochenberg curve. Is this a protective barrier we're seeing here at this point, Chris?
Well, it would certainly make sense, because Fran Rueda is doing a great job in holding off Riccardo Agostini as well, and of course they can play these games now. They've only adopted this car since the last round at Le Castellet. At the start of the season, the altitude car, the second McLaren we see in this queue, was run by Greystone, and they made the decision to switch to the Optimum camp midway through the season. Car's come alive since then, but suddenly for Optimum, fighting for the championship as well, they can sort of deploy this car now, especially while Fran Rueda is driving it. And right now, he's doing a great job of protecting Sam Dahan from the AF Corsa Ferrari behind him.
Yeah, we know how experienced Fran Rueda is as well. Multiple-time race winner here in the GTOpen, and has certainly got a stellar record to match very many of the best of them here in this championship, and certainly putting his skills to use with this ongoing fight now, with Agostini right in behind us, a deadlock pretty much in between Ps 4, 5 and 6, with Pitamba then 4.9 seconds back. We're back on board here with Simon Riker as he now makes his way through turn 3. Phil Barron just up ahead as well, who've got a lovely exit as well. Fran Rueda, no, he's going to go for the move this time. Heading down into Slosh Gold on Sam Dahan. We'll have the Tiger line on exit, but will Sam Dahan pull off a switchback? Does he have enough leverage? No, it's Fran Rueda now who moves up into 4th place. Agostini now will have his chance. He might try and spy a weakness on the back of Sam Dahan's car. Is there a chance the Ferrari could upset the issue?
Well, no team games being played at Optimum, that's
Obviously
for sure. So the Pro-Am Optimum run McLaren passes the Pro McLaren, the championship leader no less. Tidy little move down the inside. He finally got the good enough exit he needed, close enough down the straight, and put himself up into 4th place overall now. And this, of course, does affect Dahan's championship. We have separate points for Pro-Am and for Am, but for the pro runners, it's the overall points that determines their championship. So that will be, that's a net points loss for them, really. And now Agostini is looking at the back of Dahan. And Dahan getting a little hip and shoulder there out of the first corner. That could give the Ferrari some momentum as they run up the hill now. And there is a headwind down this section of the track as well, so the Ferrari will be hoovering up that slipstream. Not to too much effect, though. And still behind by the time they get into the braking zone at turn 3, but this is where he was passed a lap ago. The Ferrari not close enough, I don't think, certainly compared to what Fran Rueda was last time around.
Yeah, Fran Rueda now obviously stretching that advantage out to a second. Dahan now down in 5th with Agostini in behind. These two coming together. These two cars met through, you remember before at Hungaroring when Sam Dahan was trying to bring it home for an Optimum Motorsport victory. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be after a collision with Nicola Marinangeli, as Chris so rightly referred to earlier on, and now they meet again, heading through this sector. A very tight, aggressive line here from Simon Riker, heading through the Rochenberg curve, so that's interesting, as he now looks to launch himself forward, but I've got to give credit to Riker. Bouncing back from adversity here, Chris. He lost positions at the start, he's making them back.
Yes, both Philip Barron and Riker have gone past Marco Pulcini, third in Pro-Am, and the class points leader there. So scruffy couple of corners from Pulcini, he's gone backwards.
Yeah, certainly has done. There is Riker making his way through, and yes, it is just a simple piece of debris, I think, off the left-hand side. The bodywork, like you say, may hinder the aero to a certain degree, maybe feel the effects in the corners. There's Christian Korzanowski in the new Ferrari 296. Very angry-looking machine it does look as well.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I love the livery to match. It's the one thing I do really love the Olymp liveries. They are fantastic to see, and this is the moment.
That's Pulcini getting wide on the gravel there at turn 4, and a late little jink to the inside for Riker to get up on the inside.
You've got to take your opportunities, and that's exactly what Riker did, as we're now seeing Korzanowski extend it out wide out of turn 3. Heading down towards Sloshgold again now, towards turn 4 and turn 5. Pitamba further up the road. Riker getting close to the back of Phil Barron. Now he's only half a second outside the window, and Steve Jans isn't that much further up the road either. So Riker, in this stint, might be able to turn what was a potential loss into a potential positive.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of rubber on the runoff areas at turns 1 and 3 by the end of this race, I'm sure of it. Plenty of drivers have opted to head out there. This is really important for Maximilian Paul here, the gap continuing to grow, 6.4 seconds, but he's also 13 clear of the sister car. 5-second time penalty to car number 6. That's the Get Speed car, the Anthony Bartone car. That car currently in 13th place overall, but yeah, Maximilian Paul's 13 seconds ahead of the sister car, and so that means when he takes the 10 seconds in the pit stop, he'll still come out in second place. So really, at this moment, it seems like the only team that can deny Oregon a third win of the season is Team Motorpark and Diego Menchaca when he takes over in the number 17.
Yeah, and don't forget as well, Pierre-Louis Chauvet is a very, very talented young man as well to boot, and of course had his chance at Paul Ricard to take a victory on his own terms too. Unfortunately, until they came together late on in the race, and unfortunately, the Optimum Motorsport team, they very nearly came a cropper at the same time as that too. They've had their own a little bit of misfortune on that occasion, though they were fortuitous, as we're now seeing them make their way through the Roche and Verth curve. Agostini still in behind Sam Dahan, but hasn't quite got as close as he did before. And we've got news now, car 69. Oh, Sam Dahan,
leader.
5-second time penalty to be added to race time, and we spoke about track limits in qualifying and how imperative it is certainly on this round, and it might have just thrown a curveball here this time.
At the moment, I think it will only cost them 1 place. Tamba's 4.9 behind Agostini there, so that should only lose him 1 position at the moment, but that could be very, very costly indeed, particularly with their nearest championship rival set to take over the lead in the championship, running in 2nd place at the moment. Costly error there.
Yeah, very costly indeed. They might pay the price now with that coming towards the end. They were so optimistic, as I said earlier on, with the performance that they had in qualifying. Sam Dahan himself spoke that he was very happy with the performance. He had every right to be too. I mean, 5th fastest off the back of that run is certainly no mean feat. So now sees himself again trying to challenge. Now we see Agostini. And as they make their way down towards now Sloshgold section, the gap now still remains at 4/10. So Sam Dahan still doing a good job, but like I say, that 5 seconds is not going to help him come the end of the race.
No, and we'll see if Charlie Fagg can make any forward progress when he hands over, when he takes over the car. Sorry, look at that. Fran Raiders eaten into Dan Arrow's advantage there, isn't he?
1.4 seconds now, and it's getting closer as time goes on. I'm looking at the deltas, and naturally, at this point in Sector 1, 2/10 faster, near enough Fran Rueda than Dana Arrow, and in the 2nd sector, he was just over a whole 10th faster as well, so finding 3/10 already on this current lap is certainly going to play into his hands.
And the driver change window is going to open in about 50 seconds time. It's imperative that this Motorpark Mercedes in 2nd place stays within 10 seconds of the race leader before they come in for the stop. I would imagine, following the trend that we've seen all season, Maximilian Paul will extend as long as possible right to the end of the pit window.
As we'll see there.
Where, yes, Quite possibly.
Yeah, I'd imagine the Seabear will do exactly the same, and then tee up for Menchaca late into the stoppages, but we'll have to wait and see whether that prophecy does come true. Dan Arrow in behind as well is waiting in the wings in third place, having a good run so far. Sam Dahan going defensive through turn 3, and certainly has a playmate in that of Agostini, who's going to look to try and challenge perhaps on the latter stages of this lap. They're coming down towards Stoshgold again, and again we see that defensive manoeuvring there from Dahan, just sort of trying to flicker out the aero, then back in, and we saw Agostini just basically trailing him, just trying to stay within that rear wing, making sure he carries the speed as well, as we now see the driver changes coming into play.
Yep, Kiki Saknana handing it over to Adam Osaka in the 786 Get Speed Mercedes. They of course a Ferrari as well. So I missed on my notes as well that the Motorpark Mercedes has a 10-second handicap to take as well. So actually the gap is will stand at 7 seconds. So regardless of what's happening with the pit stop phase, so that gap will stand.
Yeah, Heiko Neumann and Timo Rumpfkeil have got 10 seconds themselves in the AMCAT, so they're going to have a lot of fun down the rear end as well. Yes. Oh, goodness me.
Is that the Kessel
That
Ferrari
looks like the Kessel Blue Ferrari to me. I think Nicolo Schiro and Nicolo Rossi, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And a bit of a moment, to say the least. In comes Sam Dahan, though. And as we'd expect, Charlie Fagg will take the helm this time around, right to the end of the race. 40 minutes and 50 still to go. And no doubt he's going to put his best foot forward. Every chance here for Charlie Fagg to deliver. But remember, 5 seconds to be added come the end of the race. You see Rob McCourtney there at the front of the car. He's standing there with a sign. He's going to let him go, of course, when they're ready to leave. In comes Christopher Haase, swapping in for Simon Riker. And there we have Anthony Bartone being subbed in by Aaron Walker, who steps up for the Get Speed performance in the fabulous orange livery. So there we see Pitamba. He's being trailed as well, with a Get Speed in behind. Phil Barron joining the party too. And there we see Heiko Neumann coming out of the car. Timo Rumpfkeil will be jumping in the car now too.
Yep, all action in the pit lane now, and it will be for a while. And obviously the Greystone being pushed back. Slightly overshot the marks perhaps, and well, he has got a car right in front of him as well. It's very tight down there, as this is the race leader coming in.
Interesting, Maximilian Paul coming in early.
Earlier than we suspected, so interesting. They've just gone past our commentary box position now. Pierre-Louis Chauvet, the young Frenchman, will take over the race leading car, but by the looks of it, Marcos Seibert has stayed out. He has.
Could be a clever play. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, they're making the swap. We'll have to sit tight and see whether they do come out in a timely fashion. Remember, they're serving the 10-second handicap at this point. Pitamba making his way through towards turn 1. And he's being pursued as well by that of Steve Jans in 7th place. Philip Barron watching all this unfold. There in the back is Carol Bash, who's going to join them too. Aaron Walker already streaking up towards turn 3 as Pitamba now makes his way down through towards this section as well. Steve Jans in hot pursuit.
Certainly is. This is Giuseppe Cipriani in. There'll be no driver change there. He's a solo entry, the only one on the grid, so he does the full race distance. The only time he did have a co-driver was for the Spa Enduro, because it was mandatory.
Yes. Could you imagine doing the entire distance at all?
No. I can't imagine doing 20 minutes in one of these cars, let alone 2 hours and 20 minutes. So this is the Kessel in as well. Nicolo Schiro and Nicolo Rossi swapping over. Back out on track soon. So let's take a look at some of the sector times and see if Marcos Seibert is making any inroads on Pierre-Louis Chauvet. And it's pretty even, actually. I would even say that Pierre-Louis Chauvet is still going faster than what Marcos Seibert is doing at the moment, so that gap will probably extend. Dan Arrow taking a lot of liberties with the track limits on the way into turn 1, but Fran Raiders right up his chuff now for 3rd place. Well, what was 3rd place when before the driver change started. Reece Barr about to get into the SPS Performance Mercedes. And Mikael Pitamba's done his first stint with his new hair colour. served him well, made up a lot of progress, actually, especially compared to his qualifying position. He had certainly a very good run last time out in the Castellet as well. And look at it, look how much progress the East Talent Audi has made up with only 5 seconds of handicap. That must be a lap down.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're making their way around. We just saw as well Carol Bash starting to charge his way through the field. He managed to dispatch certainly another car, of that, of course, being that big moment heading through the latter part of the Rochenberg curve. And again, maybe a sign of weakness starting to creep in now is Fran Rueda, who, remember, was 2 seconds plus behind that of Dan Arrow, has been very slowly but surely reeling the time in, and after that, that certainly will help the cause of Fran Rueda. And just look at that, committing to the gravel on the outset, heading out to the Rochenberg curves.
Yeah, so Haase here in the back of this train is a lap down. He's done his stop. 2 in front of him, yet to do so. And well, actually, he'll appreciate the slipstream, but probably feels he can go faster than these guys, and will try and unlap himself potentially. So let's see where the others have come out. So the 69 Charlie Fag has come out behind Pierre-Louis Chauvet by some 10 seconds. As we see Haase going out wide there at turn 3. This is going to be fascinating when the driver change finishes, because at the moment it looks like Fag would end up in a podium position.
Chauvet is already going to work. He's just dispatched Pascal Bachmann as well. So changes start to happen further down the field. Carol Bash has already now chopped past that of Giuseppe Cipriani as well. Haase hot on the tail, certainly on the coattails here of Fran Rueda as he looks to unlap himself, coming out of the Wirth curve now. Will then descend through and again into the gravel. Dan Arrow. Goodness me, and that is a reoccurrence. And also Christopher Haase having a shaky moment coming out of that sector. I think it might have caught him slightly off guard. And Fran Rueda, I think as a result, he's got to start thinking about making that key move, because he got close enough as Bachmann now comes into the pits.
Yep, the Streetar Aston Martin, certainly one of the most striking cars that we have on the grid. Here's that moment again. So yeah, Dan Arrow, Haase got it more into the gravel, and very neatly collected the Audi there. It was a big swap here as it gets over the curve.
Did well to recover that, and that just goes to show what a professional he really is. Charlie Fag now moves up into 9th place with Faisal Karim now stepping into the Streetar Aston. And certainly the race starting to unfold now, and it does look to be fascinating. Haase now moves up to 11th as Faisal Karim continues to tail down the field during the pit stop phase. Fran Rueda exiting out of turn 3, still hovering all over the back of Dan Arrow, who has done a stellar job so far, especially after qualifying it the way he did on the front row, and has certainly had a relatively untroubled stint, apart from the little stretches he has taken heading out of Wirth as they come now through Slosh Gold. And again, I think Rueda had a better run heading out of that section out of turn 4, turn 5, as we now see Dan Arrow go very defensive. Christopher Haase almost responding likewise too as they come through Roche Bend, and now as they do in tandem, wheel to wheel, should I say, nose to tail pretty much. The gap's thinner than a fly's eyelash. This is about to kick off, Chris.
Yeah, Dan Arrow getting his elbows out there. Fran Rueda got just an excellent run out of turn 4. Arrow maybe slightly wide on the exit of the corner, and that gave Rueda a run, but covered it off very nicely. And Haase here now trying to find his way through. He is a lap down, don't forget. He has done his stop. The 2 in front of him have not. And he's going to start to feel like he's being held up a little bit, and will want to clear these cars as quick as possible.
Needs to make sure he doesn't get too frustrated though in behind. Needs to try and find a way of manufacturing this move to try and elevate himself out of being lapped at this point. And he might have a chance to do just that here, heading in towards turn 3, because he got a very nice run out of turn 1 and heading up through turn 2 and now towards turn 3. Now we run on board with Christopher Haase as he now looks towards the inside now with that of Fran Rueda. No, chooses to go right behind. Sold the dummy, in fact, to that of Fran Rueda as he now cuts to the inside again. Back on the power. Rueda says no and says, I'm holding it. You're not getting past. Well, there you have it. Just goes to show, folks, how competitive this race truly is.
That was an aggressive dart to the inside, wasn't it? Trying to get through. Agostini behind them as well. And yeah, now Rueda having another look here at Dan Arrow for what is currently 2nd place. Haase's trying to get around the outside as well. Oh, look at that. That was a little touch there, I think. a little touch into the back of the McLaren, and Haase trying to squeeze through on the inside. And this is Haase getting very frustrated behind the back of Fran Raider's car.
Yeah, they certainly are. Nose to tail again as they make their way through Sector 3. And Dan Arrow, who's still consolidating second place, 11.3 behind Marcos Seibert, who still holds on to the lead, yet to pit. As into the pits comes Dan Arrow. So that's the response. Joining him as well is Agostini. Christopher Haase now getting an exit. In they come. Menchaca will be swapping in. Marcos Seibert coming out. So they're sacrificing the lead here at this point. 32 minutes to go at this steady stage too, and 4 minutes left in the driver change window.
So this is important. We've got to see where he comes out in relation to Pierre-Louis Chauvet, the 63 Oregon Lamborghini that was leading the race before the pit stop phase began. And it's Pietro Parolini taking over from Dan Arrow here. And still Haase is looking at the back of Fran Raider's car, this time getting up on a bit more traffic. The Steve Jans Mercedes. Another little bump into the back of the McLaren there. Here's that moment from earlier on, and there was definitely a touch. It loosened up some of the bodywork there on that McLaren 720S. And, well, there's already damage on one side of that Audi. We don't need any damage on the other side as well, Chris.
I don't know, make it symmetrical. There is that benefit, but no, nevertheless, they've done well. It certainly has been a very fraught contest, and the likes of Fran Raider now, who is effectively the leader on track at this point now, with Barron in second place. Korzanowski now down in third, as well as Christopher Haase continues to try and work as hard as he can to try and unlap himself. Obviously, he doesn't want to be hindered for time, as now we see Pierre-Louis Chauvet out on track, effectively takes the net race lead now at this point with pit stops applied. And look at the margin, Chris. Look at the margin. Out comes Menchaca, and guess who's joined him? It's Pietro Parolini.
Yeah, Parolini, and then look at that.
Charlie Fagg.
Charlie Fagg in fourth place there. Obviously yet to see Rueda in, but he could well find himself up on a podium position here as he's challenging Parolini.
Oh.
Parolini a little slow out of the pit lane here, and Charlie Fagg looking towards the inside. He's got him up on the inside, and that's a net third place now for Optimum.
Certainly is. They make their way out of turn 3, and Optimum Motorsport at optimum pace. Charlie Fagg bringing the best of him here, heading down now towards Stosh Gold. Now, don't forget the 5 seconds, folks. They've got to serve that at the end of the race. That will be added to their time when the race is complete. Charlie Fagg, though, is going to continue to try and batter down the doors that essentially to get himself higher than Menchaca in this tier, certainly in the leaderboard stages here. 29.5 to go, plenty more action to be had. We're now starting to see the driver changes unfurl as Christian Korzanowski goes up to second. Kirkmeyer now coming out to the pit lane as well. Chauvet in fourth still, as we're now seeing them make their way up through now towards the turn 1 section. But what a great move from Charlie Fagg, utilised the momentum he had out of turn 1. He had the perfect run as well, and just caught Parolini out of the pits.
Yeah, fantastic. And now suddenly the Optimum car is looking at the back of its nearest championship rival, and Charlie Fagg is absolutely flying, as you would expect, and will be right on the back of Menchaca before too long. So how quickly it changes. Of course, the Motorsport car had a handicap to take, additional handicap to take. And now this is Marinangeli, who's going to try and dispatch of Parolini. Yeah, he's got a great run.
Time they met at Paul Ricard, and I tell you what, it was a feisty affair. They bashed wheels heading out of the final corner of Paul Ricard.
Yes.
Marinangeli again, they collide, they make contact again, and harking back, as I said to Paul Ricard, Parolini won't take that line down. Heading out of turn 3 now, they're going to try and go wheel to wheel again, I'm sure. The Lamborghini looking to get straight back in the aero. Marinangeli, a very fraught moment. Definitely some bodywork scratch there, Chris. And Parolini again having a look down the inside.
Yeah, they locked the brakes as well, did Parolini into turn 3. It's always fireworks when these two meet on track. They had a sensational battle in Paul Ricard, and they've come to blows once again as Fran Raider finally relinquishes the lead of the race for Andy Gilbert to get into the car. And so bearing in mind that as the Pro-Am runner, the car they're targeting is Axel Blom in 10th place. But here's that move again. I do love watching these two fight, but it seemed like they were just moving into each other, really, didn't it? You know, Parolini slightly right, Marinangeli slightly left. They don't like to give each other an inch, do they?
Good Lamborghini-Ferrari fight. That's what we do like to see. Incredible stuff indeed. As we now see the Olymp Ferrari in the pits as well. Korzanowski stepping out. In comes Stanislav Jedlinski. And they'll be heading out back onto the circuit now very, very shortly, as we now see the cars come together still. There is Yannick Mettler, I believe, unless they made the change yet, because of course Dexter Muller would have done the first stint. He has indeed, and now it's the turn of Yannick Mettler to get behind the wheel. A very trusted pair of hands, that's for sure. Charlie Fagg and Menchaca getting closer and closer together too. In fact, the gap is now coming down to within 7/10 near enough, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, how quickly it changes. Suddenly, Optimum can, well, have a chance now of making sure that they end today still with the championship lead. At the moment, it would go to Motor Park, but if Fag overtakes him, then they'll hang on to it. And the Motor Park team haven't won since the opening round in Portimao, and they've been very consistent in terms of fighting for podiums. But yeah, yet to stand on the top steps since that opening round. And they, you know, a well-timed win would do them wonders for the championship.
The only time they stepped outside the podium places was in race 1 at Hungaroring. They took P3 in the opening race of the championship at Portimao, and then they took the victory in race 2. Went on to come 3rd at Spa-Francorchamps for the endurance event. P5 was the only result they had outside the podium places at Hungaroring, with a P2 then in race 2, P2 at Paul Ricard in race 1, and then a P3 in race 2 as well. And those consistent podium finishes have certainly led to them becoming really, really confident challengers in this championship fight and lead them only a single point behind. And now, at this point, it might still yet land a blow here to that of Charlie Fagg and Sam Dahan if certainly results go awry for the Optimum Motorsport team. But certainly at this point, we're going to be seeing the two championship rivals come together this time. Sort of an early rendition of what we could see in the championship. Here comes Christopher Haase again, Chris.
Yeah, passing the altitude, McLaren, Andy Gilbert at the wheel, and Haase up into 7th place there. So we see Gilbert's come out about 4 seconds ahead. Haase goes, why? Gilbert's come out about 4 seconds ahead of Axel Blom, their nearest class rival, and Blom currently lapping a bit quicker than Gilbert. So we'll see if he can hang on to that Pro-Am lead. And Kirkmeyer still leading the Am category by some margin as well, with Cipriani 14th overall, 2nd in class, about 12 seconds back. So it's been a great job there for the number 91 team Baron car.
Yeah, heading out of Earth Curve now, we see Haase just getting as close as he can to the apex, so dipping into the gravel. Here is Christopher Haase now. This was the move that we just saw heading up through towards turn 3. Did extend though on the exit, heading out, of course challenging that of Andrew Gilbert. They made their way through, but a very cool, confident move there from Christopher Haase, who's had to really put his foot down at this point, obviously due to the issues that they sustained very early on in the race. But Simon Riker did a great job of bringing the car back into where it started, essentially. So now seeing again, the Lamborghini make its way through. Pierre-Louis Chauvet enjoying a 7.4 second gap between him and Menchaca, and certainly Charlie Fagg in behind, waiting to strike.
Now, last time around, Menchaca was a bit quicker than Chauvet, about 0.3 of a second. Need to make bigger inroads than that if he's going to catch Chauvet in the last 24 minutes of the race. And of course, there's got Charlie Fagg bearing down on him as well. And now look at this, Perellini's got his mirrors full of Mercedes now. He's already taken on McLaren, Ferrari, and now he's got a Mercedes behind him as well in the form of Reece Barr. And oh dear, the street art Aston Martin arriving backwards at the first corner.
Yeah, G. Faisal Karim unfortunately being spun or spinning the car certainly off the track, and will have to right himself and gets himself forward. Reece Barr now right on the rear of Pietro Pirellini this time. We've got Ernst Kirkmeyer as well, who was leading the way earlier on himself in terms of the certainly the AM contingent. Cipriani has taken that away by the looks of our timing screen here, and has in fact dropped down to 23rd place, so a huge moment at that point, as we now see them make their way through, and again still close together as they do battle. Again, Carol Bash on the move, as well as we see some side-by-side action heading down in towards Jokerin. There is Bash, gets himself ahead as well, ahead of Axel Blom, and is now chasing Andrew Gilbert for the Pro-Am lead.
Yep, so Niers, and now Reece Barr pulls out from behind Perellini's Lamborghini. He'll be on the outside line for turn 3 here, and that Mercedes actually able to out-drag the Lamborghini That's not what we've been told would happen by certainly the Mercedes teams. Trying to go right around the outside. Perellini gives him no space whatsoever, and Reece Barr has the door shut very firmly in his face.
Yeah, elbows out at turn 3 and heading down towards turn 4. Reece Barr will have to try again. Little flash of the lights there, the brake lights of Pietro Perellini's car. Charlie Fagg, though, again, the two title combatants, currently sat in 2nd and 3rd, and it's all down to Menchaca, who's got to keep Charlie Fagg at bay. A little flash of the lights from Charlie Fagg as well, coming out of Rochenwerth curve. Could yet be a sign of things to come, because we all know the credentials of one Charlie Fagg, who has certainly done it in amongst some of the best championships of the world, including this at the GTOpen this season too. He's certainly been a proven contender and a firm battler. As we now review that replay here at this point, of course, Pietro Perellini getting the elbows out on Reece Barr. Stewards might take a dim view of that, Chris.
They might well do. I think Reece was entitled to a bit more space there, but it's fine, because there was plenty of runoff there, and they both live to fight another day. Diego Menchaca here, who's going to be soaking up pressure from Charlie Fagg. Menchaca having a really, really good year himself alongside Marcos Seibert. Menchaca was a Dubai 24-hour winner this year, actually, and now fighting for the GTOpen championship with the man behind him on track at the moment.
Yeah, very good display as well of different lines taken by the two drivers. Charlie Fagg opted for a wider take, heading through towards turn 3 to give him the overspeed, heading down towards turn 4, which he now takes. It didn't prove very effective at that point, though, but maybe trying to batter down the Mercedes in terms of its own straight line speed. Heading down now into Roche Curve. There you go, as you can see there, trying to use all the width they can. Karel Bash now taking the Pro-Am lead away from Andrew Gilbert, who now drops down into overall 9th place and 2nd in the Pro-Am contest.
Great stuff from Karel Bash. You always know he's going to move forward whenever he gets behind the wheel, and now this is Barr finally getting his way past Perellini. Perellini trying to get back through on the Mercedes, but Reece Barr, the Irishman, made his way through up into 5th place. Yeah,
5th place now, 3.4, as Perellini takes a detour into the gravel, almost requisite of what we saw from Dan Arrow earlier on as well. So maybe there's a theme here, not quite sure. Obviously a theme they don't want to pursue at this point, but still, points on the table, and that's exactly what Perellini is going to be chasing. Has certainly been very much learning the car, learning the championship and understanding how it works. They did say at the start of the season that that was what this season was all about, education, essentially. As we take a look at the replay, this is the moment Reece Barr took the move and certainly took the position away from Pietro Perellini.
It was very close, so Perellini's gone deep defending against the Mercedes into turn 4, and Reece Barr just straight out dragged the Lamborghini on the way into turn 6.
Yeah, certainly did. Review now with, we're on board with Aaron Walker. He's got Axel Blom right ahead of him too. The gaps are very minute here, so this is essentially a Pro-Am battle. With him behind as well, enter Nicolo Schiro, who has also brought himself into the mixer here too, and just look who's ahead of them as well. That's of Andrew Gilbert, who's got to try and hold back the tirade. Here comes now Nicolo Schiro, right around the outside. He's going to try and extend the long way around, heading out of turn 3. He'll have a nice run though, heading down towards Slosh Gold. Definitely uses it here now, tries to march and charge here on Aaron Walker, who's now looking to go side by side here with the Ferrari, down through towards turn 4 now at Slosh Gold. Inside line for Schiro. Surely he can plummet and certainly convert this into a potential overtake. He does. Smooth as you like. Fantastic move there from Nicolo Schiro. Gets past Aaron Walker, but he comes straight back at him, Chris.
Yeah, Walker trying to get back up on the outside now. It'll be the long way round at turn 6, but nothing Aaron Walker can do with that. Just tucks back in behind the Ferrari that is trying to get himself up onto the Pro-Am podium. Next car in his sight will be Axel Blom.
Yeah, it certainly will. Axel Blom currently sat 10th overall. Schiro in 11th, still walking now, down to 12th overall. And I tell you what, we've got a fascinating contest here. These are all essentially fighting it out in Pro-Am further up. Gilbert currently in 2nd in that category. Blom chasing that 2nd place. As we now see it coming together, Charlie Fagg now looking to try and battle against Diego Menchaca. Now, these are the two championship contenders now going side by side. 18 minutes to go, and Charlie Fagg will have to try and beat back that 5-second deficit, but first needs to try and dispose of Diego Menchaca inside at Slosh Gold. It will be gold for Charlie Fagg. He takes it away from Diego Menchaca. 2nd now on the circuit. He'll look to bring it home, maybe even try and cut into the gap between him and Pierre-Louis Chauvet. This race is now going to hot up. It's going to get feisty. Menchaka just losing out there, unfortunately, through Slosh Gold.
Oh, it was an even wider line than normal on the way into turn 3 there for Charlie Fagg, and it gave him an excellent run down the straight and just about found the inside line for the braking zone at turn 4. And now he's got 17 and a bit minutes to try and make sure he has 5 seconds over that Motorpark Mercedes by the time they reach the checkered flag in order to hang on to that position.
Yeah, remember, they still hold the championship lead by a solitary point, and they'll want to try and advance that gap, as you so rightly say, Chris, if they want to hold on to that championship lead too. And again, no, it's so great to see them both battling this entire fight out on circuit. It's a pleasure to watch, as now we see them tackle the rise up towards turn 3. Nicolo Schiro, again, haunting the back of Axel Blom as they come through Jochen Rindt. And Andrew Gilbert has got to try and put his best defensive hat on, because he's got a queue of cars in behind there looking to take the place away.
Yeah, so I winced there because there was a squirrel that was about to run across the track, and I didn't want it to come out in front of poor Andy Gilbert there. That would have been very bad indeed. But yeah, this is for second place in Pro-Am, currently being led by Andy Gilbert, and plenty of clunking and cobbling over the curves. That gives Schiro the run here in the Kessel Ferrari, and he'll have the inside line for the braking zone at turn 3 as well. Might even just out-drag the Mercedes by the time they reach up there. Aaron Walker trying to get involved in this as well. We're on board with the Get Speed Mercedes, switches out to the outside line. Schiro goes through into 3rd place in Pro-Am, and that's Axel Blom trying to get back into the slipstream there. Aaron Walker trying to take full advantage of that as well. Got the AM class leader right behind them as well, trying to get into the mix. And Walker very late on the brakes there and turns it into an overtaking opportunity. Oh, actually Axel Blom just about able to fend off the advances of the teenage Brit.
You have to really admire the opportunistic mindset there of Aaron Walker, dancing, well, backwards and forwards, side by side. He tried to make it through on Axel Blom, very nearly cultivated that into an overtake as well. Fascinating, certainly splendid to watch, as now we're seeing Nicolo Schiro going to work. Next up on his list, it's Andrew Gilbert, and this is for the Pro-Am P2 fight. In behind as well, we've got Aaron Walker still trying to attack this of Axel Blom, and that'll be another fight, I think, that's going to brew here on this next lap. But just take a look at Schiro, who is certainly very primed on the exit of that Red Bull Mobile curve. Turn 1 coming up next. The Niki Lauda curve is next up here now with 15 minutes still to go. Gilbert still holding on to that Pro-Am 2nd place, but for how much longer can he hold back the tide? Because Gilbert now under pressure as Schiro puts his foot down, exiting turn 1. We're now right on board, this time with Aaron Walker still. He's got his own battle. He's got Axel Blom ahead of him, who has got a nice little bit of straight line speed, and the Mercedes rising up through towards turn 3, comfortably ahead of Aaron Walker, so no move can surely be made by Walker at this point. But just take a look at Schiro. He's looking oh so good right now, and another stellar exit, and a turn 3. Oh, a detour there for Axel Blom, and he's lost out twice, Chris.
I think Walker ended up getting into the back of the sister Mercedes there, both of them being run by Get Speed, so that's not going to go down too well, as Schiro now tries to take 2nd in class away from Andy Gilbert. Just keeping an eye on that lead gap, by the way. Charlie Fagg's already taken 1.5 seconds out of our race leader, Pierre-Louis Chauvet. So
don't throw me your tickets.
Yeah, there might be another twist in the tail. Yeah, so Aaron Walker just getting a couple of wheels in the gravel there out of turn 6. Schiro still looking for a way past Andy Gilbert here. As they reach the crest of the hill towards turn 9, he'll have to tuck back in behind as they go through these next 2 right-handers, but surely it's a matter of when rather than if.
Fascinating, certainly, circumstance here, and there is Robbie Courtnidge. Still a great chance here for Optimum Motorsport to take a race win here, and certainly put a stopper on a potential Oregon race win. Once again, Axel Blom, who is now looking to chase Aaron Walker, who managed to take the opportunity he had earlier on to consolidate that 11th place, and as we now see the cars rise up towards turn 3, a very fascinating fight here in Pro-Am, as we see Gilbert once again trying to hold on to his position in Pro-Am P2. Nicolo Schiro, though, has done a stellar job himself in his own right, taking that Ferrari now into a P3 position in the Pro-Am fight. Now down towards Slosh Gold they go once again at turn 4, and I have to say, since he stepped into the car, he has been oh so good, Nicolo Schiro.
He has been made a lot of good forward progress. Still Looking at the back of Gilbert's McLaren, though. Karel Bash now 10 seconds to the good of this fight in the lead in class. And Kirkmeyer in the AM lead, so looking at the back of this as well. 12.5 minutes left on the clock. And warning flag going out to car number 17. That is the third place car of Diego Menchaca. That'll be for track limits. Got to keep it neat and tidy to the end of the race, Diego. Don't want to get a 5-second penalty as well, because he can still take advantage of the track limits penalty for Sam Dahan and Charlie Fagg and take the championship lead with it.
Yeah, this could be a big move here for Nicolo Schiro. Their best position they finished was 3rd place in the Pro-Am fight, and that was back at Spa-Francorchamps. So this could be a Pro-Am P2 and their highest result this season, should they pull this off. We hear a squeal!
Oh, that was Gilbert spinning.
Gilbert's round at turn 1, a huge error, and certainly a massive moment. Oh,
Lamborghini slow!
Goodness me!
Which one is it?
Is it? It can't be Chauvet. It can't be.
We need to get a closer look at it. It's certainly one of the Lamborghinis. It's Perolini. He's tumbling down the timing order. Oh my goodness.
A massive moment. Pietro Perolini, the car that started on the front row. Remember, it was 2 Oregon cars right at the front end. And certainly now it won't be, in this case, at the checkered flag. Pietro Perolini coming to a thundering halt, and now is going to have to try and trail that car, and it's definitely something wrong there, that's for sure. You can hear it knocking, it's trying to engage, but it's not. Is he stuck in gear, do you think?
Oh, it's dying.
Oh, dear.
It was giving up the ghost there. Well, yeah, not quite sure what the problem is on Perolini's Lamborghini there, but relief for all Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet fans. It was not the 63 that was going slow, but yeah. Oh, now that is in a bit of a precarious spot that Perolini is parked at. And 10 minutes to go. Could we see a safety car?
And I'd argue that's not what Charlie Fagg wants at this point.
Not at all, not with a 5-second penalty.
Yeah, because coming towards the end, that will harm his ability to reduce that deficit. There we can see him on the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, he went wide into the first corner, but I think that's unrelated. This is a spin from Andy Gilbert. So before all that kicked off, Gilbert had a spin from 2nd in
There's Perolini.
Perolini was already going slow at that point. Oh, he's got it going again.
Oh, there we go.
That's going to be a huge relief to Optimum.
Yeah, it is, because Charlie Fagg, had he sustained or suffered under the safety car, it would have, of course, made the job that much harder to try and get that 5 seconds down. But at this point, they haven't got that issue to deal with, because he has got the car back underway, Pietro Perolini. So we're now seeing the cars make their way down now in towards the latter sector. It's all kicking off. Now, this is the AM Motorpark car. Oh, sorry, no, it's not. It's Menchaca making his way through the final sector. Still currently in 3rd place and 1.8 off that of Charlie Fagg. As we now see that of Pierre-Louis Chauvet. That time still continuing to come down though, Chris. 5.2. We haven't seen it fall too much though. Yeah,
it was only 2 tenths that was taken out of the lead gap last time around, and 10 minutes left on the clock. And bearing in mind, Fagg needs to not only pass Chauvet, but also add 5 seconds to it as well to take the win. So it's looking very good right now for Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet to take yet another win. It will be their 3rd and back-to-back victories as well.
Yeah, and interesting to note, I mean, obviously we only had, obviously off the back of that run at Paul Ricard, where Chauvet had that issue in race 1, where of course he actually came together with either the Optimum Motorsport McLaren, and then of course in race 2 they would go on to take a race win, and as you so rightly say, a 3rd one in successive rounds for Oregon, should it stay like this. And also it will give Chauvet to have his chance in the sun as well, because he's yet to cross the checkered flag line, because Maximilian Paul has been the only one out of the 2 to get the race win.
Yes, exactly. No Sam Dahan in Chauvet's way this time to have to pass before.
No.
That was a bit mean, that. Pierre's not going to thank me for that.
You have to apologise to him, mate, Chris.
I will, yeah, but he's got clear track and only 8.5 minutes or so separating him and crossing the line and meeting the checkered flag in 1st place.
Yeah, 8 minutes still to go, folks, so sit tight, and Oregon, I'm sure, will enjoy this one. Chauvet, he has a simple job, just needs to bring the car home, and I'd imagine he'll have his team on the radio to him as well, just making sure that he understands what currently lies in wait. He's having certainly a stellar run, as we now see Charlie Fagg making his way towards turn 3 as well. Street Art in behind him, so he's just dodging all the traffic that lies in wait. Of course, if you're Charlie Fagg, Optimum Motorsport still with 2 wins this season, including that Spa-Francorchamps victory, where they would take the endurance race victory. And now heading down towards the next right-hander. I think Diego Menchaca is there flashing in behind as well, because he's got that traffic in between him and Charlie Fagg.
Absolutely. Now, Fagg took a slightly bigger chunk last time around. It was 6 tenths, but the gap's still 4.3, and the gap 2.6 to Menchaca. Those are the ones we need to keep an eye on regarding the 5-second time penalty for the second place car.
The thing is, Menchaca needs to get past these cars here, because at this point, it shows on the timing screen 2.8 seconds. You know, they can still take P2 here at this point, because obviously that 5-second penalty will be administered at the very end of the race. So if it remains like this, then Menchaca essentially takes P2, and we've got a conglomerate now fighting at the front, and there is the Motor Park AM car coming together. 2 McLarens running side by side, 2 of them former Greystone as well. Well, one Greystone, one now Optimum.
Yes, there'll be a wry smile on Lewis Proctor's face there, and indeed the Greystone team passing the Altitude Racing McLaren, and now the Team Arubkyle Mercedes going through as well. That car now second in AM. He's passed Giuseppe Cipriani there. We just see in the black and neon green Lamborghini behind Gilbert. So that car should still hang on to the, it will still hang on to the AM points lead after this race. And safe to say, they've been going into pretty much every weekend with handicaps to take, but they still can't stop them hanging on to this championship lead.
No, not at all. Yannick Mettler as well, horn to the back of Giuseppe Cipriani's Lamborghini as they head through now the latter stages of this lap now. They'll begin the next lap under the 5-minute and 50 mark. Crossing it now, just look at the overspeed that Yannick's going to get. No doubt he's going to look to try and dispatch the Il Baroni Rampante. They head up now towards turn 1 they go, and Yannick indeed looks to the inside, heading through turn 1, but no, does not make the move. And naturally that might hinder his exit speed, though Cipriani taking a very aggressive line over the curb, and naturally that will cause him a few problems. A flash of the lights here from Yannick Mettler as they now rush up now towards turn 3. Now, is that just me? Has Fagg lost paint? What's going on?
Oh, Charlie
Fagg. Goodness me, he's dropping through the order.
Yellow flag at turn 4. That could well be him. We're coming up to turn 4 now, and we're going to see what has happened to the championship leading car that has suddenly plummeted from 2nd place. Is it in the gravel trap here? There's some tyre marks there. Where is the McLaren?
There it is. There it is.
Oh, yes, just at the bottom of the picture there. He's going through the gravel. He's fallen outside of the top 10 now. This is an absolute disaster for the championship leading squad. Now, was there a problem? Was it a mistake from Charlie Fagg there? We won't see. He's still skipping through the gravel.
Oh, that looks ominous. It certainly doesn't look too good for him. Charlie Fagg.
He's found the little access road at the back of that gravel trap, but what has happened there?
Goodness me, the car has come to a stop, and I think there's puzzlement certainly on the faces of those from Optimum Motorsport. They're not sure.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Now, I did say coming into this round that certainly Red Bull Ring can cause variable question marks to...
He's getting out the car.
Yeah, I think that's a retirement, Chris. That is a retirement for that of Charlie Fagg, without a shadow of a doubt. Certainly the door opening up here for the Optimum Motorsport McLaren 720S, and now sees itself just on the escape road coming out of turn 4. Diego Menchaca now will retake 2nd place, with Reece Barr in 3rd now in terms of the timing screen.
So that'll be their first podium of the season. An excellent performance from a very young pairing at SPS Mercedes, but suddenly Motor Park is in the pound seat. They will take quite the lead in the championship as a result of this.
And a first retirement as well for the Optimum Motorsport McLaren too. They finished every race. They haven't finished outside of P6 throughout the entirety of this season, and now have seen their first DNF of the championship. They will not register any points here in race 1 here at Red Bull Ring. This throws a huge chance now to the Motor Park pairing of Marco Seibert and Diego Menchaca, and with 3 minutes still to go, I can't imagine they'll celebrate too much yet. We've still got more to come.
Absolutely, yeah, anything's possible. We have seen plenty of late drama in GTOpen so far this year, but this car is suddenly in the pound seat in the championship, looking to take the points lead, and by a good margin as well, with that retirement for Sam Dehan and Charlie Fagg. Unbelievable. And now SPS performance on the podium as well. Rhys Barr there, the Irishman, gonna bring it home on the rostrum. And now this is what dyeing your hair, Mikhail Pitamba, does for you, because
it's the Albon effect.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
the Alex Albon effect coming together as well between Yannick Mettler and Giuseppe Cipriani on the outset of Roche Curve, or Verth Curve, should I say, as we now see the certainly the cars make their way through the latter sector, and Pierre-Louis Chauvet still leading the charge, and has certainly held that acclaim now for quite some time. But now with 2 minutes still to go, they will of course be looking to bring that home. There is of course Rhys Barr. He's trying to marshal his way past out of the street on Aston Martin.
There it is.
And there you see, folks, the Provisional Drivers' Championship. Of course, 3 rounds to go, including this one. Diego Menchaca, Marco Seibert, 97 points. Just look at that. All of a sudden, it was 1 point. You can add another 10 on top of that now, Chris.
Yeah, that's...
Going the other way this time as well.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment in this championship, is there?
Never.
So Chauvet leads by 6.8 seconds now to Diego Menchaca. And so, yeah, suddenly his race is a lot more comfortable as well for the last couple of minutes. Of course, Charlie Fagg was eating into his race lead. Not that much would have happened with it because he had a 5-second penalty, but yeah, still not a comfortable position to be in. And now Chauvet is just sitting pretty. He's got to bring it home.
Yeah, certainly Chauvet now in a very comfortable place. Menchaca, I'm sure, will be happy in many ways. They've come what they've needed to do in race 1, and certainly given the fact that they had to battle their own sense of adversity at the very start. They have brought their car higher up the order. They weren't necessarily up at the front end of proceedings, should we say, at the very start, but certainly getting off the line. Marco Seibert did a stellar job of putting them in a position where they could challenge for the big points and certainly try and tackle that of the Optimum Motorsport team. But I'm sure the big story here, Chris, is this car here. Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul. They have done a stellar job here today.
I mean, nobody's really been able to challenge them, have they? Charlie Fagg edged into the lead a little bit, but the damage was already done at that point. Maximilian Paul just drove off into the distance from pole position, and Pierre-Louis Chauvet consolidating that position that Maximilian Paul put them into. And it will be a back-to-back victories for the 63 crew. Now, Christopher Haas is not quite finished here because he's looking at the back of Nicola Marinangeli. We are now on the last lap, so he's got only a few corners to try and make his way up into 4th place. And going wide there on the exit of 3, trying to gain a few extra kilometres an hour down the straight. This is important for Haas as well because they're not completely out of the championship fight just yet. It would be an outside chance, but every point counts.
Yeah, it certainly does. But this man, certainly, Pierre-Louis Chauvet, he usually would, in terms of race victories for this very car, he would have to take the initial stint and watch his friend and colleague Maximilian Paul take it to the bitter end. They've already crossed the line twice in the front of proceedings, but Oregon team, after celebrating last season with 2 back-to-back race wins in race 1 and race 2, they're back on top here at the Red Bull Ring. It's Oregon, it's Pierre-Louis Chauvet. He crossed the line in first here for the first time this season, and certainly now notches together a 3rd race win this season for the Oregon team, and that of car number 63. Diego Menchaca and Marco Seibert, they'll be absolutely thrilled. Not only does that mean another podium, that doesn't only mean the fact that they finished ahead of Optimum Motorsport, but it does mean they have taken the championship lead by 11 points. Rhys Barr comes across the line, his first podium of the season. The purple hair wins again and takes 3rd place. Rhys Barr and SPS, they will be thrilled here, Chris.
That's absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy for Rhys and Mikhail. They're great young lads. I mean, they're only 22 for Rhys and just 19 for Mikhail. That's Parolini getting well wide there. What could have been for that car that we saw halted at the side of the road, but he makes it over the line in 21st place in the end. But yeah, a brilliant young lineup at SPS, and they've done a sterling job.
They certainly have done that. It's been an interesting race, and lots of fits and starts, battles in the early stages. We also saw the likes of Charlie Fagg starting to elevate himself higher and higher. It definitely looked like on the face of it, he was going to challenge Chauvet towards the end with the amount of gains he was making, but an issue coming towards the bitter end of the race that would bring an end to the Optimum Motorsport charge. And unfortunately, it means they'll score 0 points for the first time this season. But again, I'll say it, third race win this season for the combination of Chauvet and Paul. And important points as well. And I can only imagine the reaction in the carriage from Jerry Canavicio. He will be absolutely delighted. And I tell you what, if they can go ahead and do it again tomorrow, that's essentially 4 in a row in two rounds of Red Bull Ring in the last 2 years, which is an incredible record. And they've just made it 3 in 4 right now. Yeah,
absolutely. Parked it up in front of #1 board. That's got to be a great feeling. And as you mentioned, Chauvet's not finished the 2 races they won so far, and he's getting to experience that for the first time. Can't wait to see how they celebrate this.
Oh, this is going to be quite something. Pierre-Louis Chauvet. Yes, he says.
Yes.
Victory for Pierre-Louis Chauvet, and that of Maximilian Paul as well. A result they rightly deserve, and I'm sure, and there you can see the reaction. Marcos Seibert, Diego Menchaca, they lead the championship now after the DNF from that of the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. Charlie Fagg looked to be set to hold on to his position in P2, but take nothing away from this man. He controlled the race from his stint halfway through. Maximilian Paul teed him up a dream, and he brought the car home. And the combination of Barr and Pit Amber, there's the reaction.
Cool as you like.
Oh, amazing. What a great pair of characters they are.
They are. It's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, the SPS team in general, absolutely fantastic. Of course, they run the car barn car as well. And, yeah, huge congratulations to them.
Yeah. Tremendous results, certainly. Here are the final results as well, folks. It is Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul who take victory here at Austria, the Red Bull Ring. Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seibert in second. Rispar, Mikhail Pitamba in third. Nicola Marinangeli and Agostini in fourth, with Simon Riker and Christopher Haase in fifth. Marcin Jedlinski and Karol Bash in sixth. Nicola Rossi and Nicola Shiro in seventh, with eighth place going to that of Polcini and Chiva. Blom and Jans in ninth, with Bartone and Walker finishing there in 10th. Cook, Meyer and Barron in 11th, 12th going to the 2 Proctors, with Neumann and that of Rumpkeil in 13th place. Muller and Mettler in 14th, with Gilbert and Rueda 15th. Giuseppe Cipriani finishes 16th. Jean-Claude Sana and Grunwald in 17th. Kiki, Sagnana and Adam Osaka finished 18th. Milos Pavlovic and Sampon Jojamanil finishing in 19th place. 20th place went to Giorgio Sinergiotto. Pietro Pirolini staggered to the end with Dan Arrow, of course. Jedlinski and Kozanowski there in behind those two. We then, of course, that of Jahid Faisal Karim, Charlie Fagg, DNF, and Andrea Montemini also out of the race too. This is what it's done to the Drivers' Championship. Combination of Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seibert now lead the way here. 11 points gap now between them and Sam Dahan and Charlie Fagg, with Christopher Haase and Simon Riker still in third. And I have to tell you, folks, in terms of the stats, we allude back to that, of course, being a stellar performance by that of Oregon team, but it was a stellar performance from this combination of certainly Barr and Pitamba. And then, of course, we saw in P2 the combination of that of Marcos Seibert and Diego Menchaca taking P2 as well for Team Motorpark and the championship lead so far. Still more races to come, though. But celebrating, it will be Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul, third race this season, and they're standing by with Alfredo Filipponi.
Maximilian Paul, Pierre-Louis Chauvet, third time, so that's a good day.
Yeah, obviously, the team did an amazing job. Pierre did an amazing job, and we had a really, really great car. So we are very happy to be now P1 and keep fighting for the championship.
The man sweating is Pierre-Louis because he did the second stint hot.
Yeah, really hot. And after what Max did, because he pulled away and created a big gap, it was not easy, but let's say I just had to manage and avoid track limits, etc. And yeah, watch out with the damage on the car, anything like that, and we won, so super happy. Yeah.
And now maybe it's still reopened for championship.
let's see. Let's say we are fighting every day for it. So thanks to Max that put the car in pole this morning and then did a good run. We, let's say, came back in the championship 4th, I think. So let's see.
He was late at the interview because he's slow. Well done, guys. Bye.
Well, they cruised to victory like the curse of the Black Pearl, and now we're going to see how they did it. Let's take a look at the highlights from race 1. And we saw them kick off here as the lights went green. It was a stellar start, certainly, from that of Fran Rueda in behind. Certainly did challenge that of the 2 Oregon cars that led the way at the very start. We saw Maximilian Paul cutting off to the outside to try and defend the place. Did so very, very well. We saw the East Talent Audi as well take an aggressive line. Unfortunately there for Simon Riker, picking up some damage later on. But as they sorted themselves out, it certainly was a furious start to the race. But certainly managing the pace so far. Maximilian Paul put an extra effort into his initial stint. We saw Sam Lahan coming together as well with his sister Optimum Motorsport McLaren as they came together down through towards Stoshgol. On that occasion, Fran Rueda coming out on top. The driver change window opened up, and in stepped Pierre-Louis Chauvet in place of Maximilian Paul, who advanced a mighty lead at this point too. Pietro Pirolini also came under some convincing pressure as Charlie Fagg took the helm in terms of the McLaren 720S GT3. A collision as well with Pirolini and that of Nicola Marinangeli. Of course, those two coming together again after that absolutely compelling visit at Paul Ricard. It was a stellar run though from Rhys Barr, who put in a huge mission to clamber up into P3, getting past that of Pietro Pirolini in his own right as well. Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seibert also put in a huge shift in order to try and challenge for the top end placings, though initially losing out to Charlie Fagg as he looked to try and advance Optimum Motorsport's course. We did see then, of course, Andrew Gilbert pivot the car coming out of turn 1, and as a consequence we then saw Pietro Pirolini in the same shot slowing down heading up towards turn 3. He managed to get the car restarted. A car that wouldn't get restarted was that of Charlie Fagg and Sam Lahan's Optimum Motorsport McLaren, but taking the checkered flag was Pierre-Louis Chauvet, a 3rd race win for Oregon team, and that of Maximilian Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet themselves. And now taking to the podium, and this is going to be one they richly will enjoy. Back here at Red Bull Ring, and a 3rd win on the spin.
Yes, of course, first time up on the podium there for Rhys Barr and Mikhail Patamba. Just seen Jerry Canavicio and a member of the Oregon team sprinting down pit lane to reach the podium in time with the pirate flag, making their way out there now right in front of our commentary box position, which is
what
great.
A character he is. Big fan of Jerry Canavicio. He's such a character and a wonderful team boss as well. Well, there we have it, the national anthem being played out for our 2 victors here. Maximilian Paul, Pierre-Louis Chauvet. Oregon team back on top yet again. Of course, still the reigning champions. Obviously with that combination of Leonardo Polcini and Benjamin Hites. I tell you what, could you imagine, Chris, can you imagine the scenes if Oregon team were to be able to put themselves in a position with Max Paul and Pierre-Louis Chauvet to win the title this season?
I mean, it's going to need a little bit of luck on their side, really. And, you know, the others got lucky with Dehaan and Ferg retiring today, but it's going to need a bit more of that.
That's exactly right. The points deficit now has come down between even them. So again, you can't rule them out, can you?
Yeah, 34 points, still a big margin, but yeah, never say it's over until it's over. Of course, we had the 777 car taking the Pro-Am win as well. Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski. Nicola Schurrer and Nicola Rossi, 2nd in that class. And Eddie Cheever and Marco Polcini, 3rd in class in the end there. I think we missed the end of that battle, but the class championship leaders back up on the podium there. And Ernst Kirkmeyer, Philip Barron did take the AM win there in 11th overall, ahead of Timo Rumpfkarl and Heiko Neumann. And Giuseppe Cipriani was 3rd in AM as well. And, look at that. They don't want to ruin their race suits for
race 2 tomorrow. Yeah, no, they've got a busy day tomorrow. But yes, folks, It was certainly a very, very exciting race so far, and credit as well to Respar and Mikhail Pitamba, who managed to obviously secure that P3, their best performance up until this point, finishing P4 in race 2 at Paul Ricard. But folks, you can join us again tomorrow for yet more action as we qualify for race 2 tomorrow morning. We'll see you there. Well, hang fire, we do have a Pro-Am podium as well to bring you. And of course, Carol Bash will be leading that one. And incidentally, for them coming into the podium places yet again in terms of the Pro-Am fight, they certainly did deliver. And that's their second win in the Pro-Am this season after taking the race 2 victory at Hungaroring. So this one is going to taste nice and sweet as well. Got to give credit as well to Marcin Jedlinski for the initial stint, teeing up the Chancellor Carol Bash to challenge. Hat tip, though, for Nicolo Schiro for bringing the car home like he did, Chris.
Yes, absolutely. They're third in the class standings going into this weekend. And Giva and Polcini will still have a fairly sizable margin. It was already 13 points going into this weekend. And that's more than a race win's worth in this championship. So still looking very good for them in that battle. But yes, for Schiro and Rossi, very good race, and for Carol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski, even better. Second victory, as you mentioned, but they've had a couple of non-scores. They're only 6th in the championship at the moment. But that's a great result for them.
It's almost against nature for a team such as that too, because they were very much, spearheading the Pro-Am last season, and obviously now this time around not having the same effect this time. Big points as well for Eddie Chiva and that of Marco Polcini as well, because they still lead the championship, and obviously P3, that's important points at this point.
Very much so. And that is very much a good point as well. Same for Heiko Neumann and Timo Rumpfkarl in the AM championship as well. They were second in class.
Yeah, came into this round 2 points clear of Jean-Claude Sada and Konrad Grunwald, who of course held the endurance victory. And this time around, obviously Heiko Neumann and that of Timo Rumpfkarl still having 3 race wins in the AM category themselves. When that comes around, Nicolo Schiro and Nicolo Rossi, however, in terms of the Pro-Am, as we said, a stellar showing from them, this being their highest finish as well in Pro-Am racing.
That's a fantastic achievement then, isn't it? Quite impressive.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We'll see the AM podium as well, which is nice. It's good to see and celebrate the other class winners and podium finishers. And here is a look at the AM drivers ready to get out there. Ernst Kirkmeyer on the right-hand side there with victory. Where were they in the championship, actually? Because they were 4th going into this one with a best finish of 2nd. That's their first class win of the season.
Yeah, stellar showing for them, and naturally at this point it will be Ernst Kirkmeyer who will take to the top step. And you're absolutely right, their best performance was 2nd place at Spa-Francorchamps. They finished 3rd at Hungaroring. This is the first victory for Ernst Kirkmeyer. And that, of course, Phil Barron. And 2nd place going to that of Motor Park again, who have once again shown that they are truly setting their sights on a championship in the AM category. And Giuseppe Cipriani, who knows exactly what it's like to win championships here in the International GTOpen, once again on the podium this time around as well. And credit to him for that. And this is his 5th podium this season.
Yeah, the important ones on the left-hand side there being Timo Rumpfkarl and Heiko Neumann, still very much, I don't want to say in command of the AM class, because they're only 2 points ahead of Jean-Claude Sada and Konrad Grunwald going into this weekend, but certainly it's been a very good result for them, especially with the 61 crew not finishing on the podium.
Yeah, well, folks, it has been a tremendous race. Join us again tomorrow when we go racing. It's race 2. Join us for qualifying tomorrow morning. Goodbye.